down the rabbit hole with me.
Hey, 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 hey,
We are inherently connected to time. The concept of time itself, to some degree an illusion. Time is measured by cycles. The cycles we make, the earth makes around the sun, the cycles of the moon, the cycles of nature. All of those things is how we measure time. And women's bodies are natural body clocks. We have a biological clock that tells us when it's time to conceive. It tells us when we are fertile. Those time cycles within our bodies, they tell us when it is time to give birth, when it is time to nurse, when it is time, and how much time is necessary in order for life to be fully formed enough to come out. And all of those things are connected to time. And after some time, our bodies tell us when it's time to stop, when it's time to rest. And so, because our bodies are naturally connected to the idea of time and measurement and cycles, it is connected to nature itself. Thus, the idea of Mother Nature.
From prisoners of war to women of power, to women of magic, to women of wisdom.
Doing is joining a sisterhood, that after we leave there, that we will support each other and support other women that are reflections of us. Every woman that comes to us is in some way ourselves, and that woman brings the gift of self-expansion and self-awareness. The purpose of this, of course, is to connect to your higher self, that part of us that gives us the power, the owner of the womb, where the birth of everything begins. And so as women, we have this special ashe that the Iyami have allowed the feminine principle and the essence of femininity to live in. We will, of course, tap into coming together in spirit. So we will summon our ancestors, those women who were Iyami before and who are Iyami now. Those mothers, those divine essence of feminine principle and feminine hierarchy that allows us to know the flow of the power of the 28-day cycle. We are going to get together and forming in different circles and different attachments that we will be doing to our spirits, to our ancestors in ceremony. We will ask their permission first, and then we will proceed in summoning our ancestors to work with us so that at the end of this retreat, we will continue to be connected to each other. We summon some of the things that make us goddess, that make us Iyami, that makes us. So we're going to call on that force of us that we have doubted ourselves, judged ourselves, did some things that today in hindsight we realize that they were not our highest expression of femininity and a feminine principle.
The oldest female on the planet, found in Africa, South Africa. The mother of humanity. She carries the genetic code for human diversity.
hey,
Greetings. I am Anuket Obayani. I am a priestess in the House of Cam and chief priestess of the Kira Nit Hetep. 25 years ago, I chose Nit Hetep as my divine feminine principle based on her characteristics. She's a warrior and protector.
one of the things that is important with regard to the African divine woman, the African consciousness, and why it is important for us to ritual, is because it's been neglected. There have been a resurgence over the last century of women's traditions and power and so on. And there's a goddess movement that has been taking place, and women have been gathering of all races, all cultures, and so on. But there's been some neglect with regard to the wider goddess community as it relates to African women, as it relates to the African tradition. Our systems are our systems of African spirituality and the divine feminine were complete and whole in and of themselves, containing all of those elements and more. And it's important to identify that, to feed that, and to recognize that, because all of our divine mothers, we have Yemoja, we have Oshun. These are mothers that invoke nurturing. These are mothers that invoke beauty, that invoke creativity, that invoke power. And we have mothers that were fighters. We have mothers that were warriors. We have mothers that were the callers and that instilled justice and divine justice. We have mothers that were nurturers for the community and all of the kingdom. So it's important to recognize that when we are addressing the dark goddess, when we are honoring the dark goddess, and to not allow anyone else to define us as they have tried to, and so forth.
This divine principle that I'm speaking of, Nithetep, is from an ancient time, long before we were taken into captivity, long before we lost the consciousness of ourselves. It was a time when we were empowered by the forces of nature. She is also one who ennobles and raises the consciousness of women, raises the consciousness of the mother.
The mother of humanity. She who sits on the throne of creation. Return to your power. Return to your power. You're not a welfare mom. That's not your origin. You're not a hoe. That's not your origin. You're not a bitch. That's not your origin. You're not a thief, a liar, a low-down, materialistic. I don't even know what all the names are. You're none of that stuff. The queen, through which all of life flows. Women of wisdom are strong and courageous. We're fearless. No one can match us. No man can match this power. Now, in our consciousness, women, we have it in our womb force, that enslavement and violations, and all of those things, the poison, it's in here. We've got to clear that up in our womb. How do you clear the trauma that was passed on from great-great-grandma to mom to daughter to great-granddaughter? It has a life and consciousness of its own, and it doesn't ever want to leave. It's having a party. But you're not. You're a divine being. You're a goddess. You're not having a party with all that trauma going on. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. So, how to still your mind. Chatter, 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 chatter. We suffer from noise pollution, always hooked up to something, constantly playing in our ears, in our brain, in our mind. How can you even communicate with your higher self? Do you know you have a higher self? You know you have spiritual energy around you trying to tell you stuff, trying to guide you? Can you even hear your intuition? Are your angels unemployed? You dismiss it because somebody's program is playing in your head, in your mind. It's captured your mind. So how to still your mind? Teach you how to do that.
For African women to come together. So we've been denied much, and especially in America, we've come through generations and generations of human captivity, of oppression. And while this was not the beginning of our story, it was still inherently a part of that. And there is some power that we gained along the way, some strength that we gained along the way from the experience of human captivity, from the experience of colonialism, from the experiences that involved sexual assault, up into even now the human trafficking, coping with single motherhood, carrying the weight of the family. All of those things, they produce a certain level of burden on us, and they produce a certain level of strain. And while we gain strength and power from any situation that has arrived, we're really able to create something out of nothing. Out of the worst circumstances, we can gain great power and great energy, like nothing else you've ever seen by any human group on the planet. And though they've endured and they've triumphed, they carry scars sometimes, and they carry deep wounds, and sometimes those wounds are generational. And it's important then to come together for our healing. And that's something we are very big on nurturing. We have families, we nurture everyone, and we tend to do that in such a way that we'll nurture everyone but ourselves. And it's important that we come to a place where honoring ourselves as much as we have honored and taken care of others.
We can do this. All we have to do is remember who we are.
I'll show you how the ancients have done it. How to build relationships of substance, of strength, of power, of harmony. How to clear emotional trauma. Historical emotional trauma.
To be a mother, to be a sister, to be a healer is one of the most amazing and most powerful positions to be in, and one of the high purposes of this universe. We keep life moving, and life continues.
I've been preparing for this day. Come to this workshop, raise your frequency, raise your conscious awareness, become the solution.